Did you guys hear that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recording in progress. That's nice that it does that. I like it that it lets people know. Okay, so for those of you that didn't see the email that I sent around, I talked about some of the benefits of mountain pose and why it's an important pose that we work on. Just balancing the body in space, right side, left side, front of the body, and back of the body gives us a really stable platform, for one. Stable from a position to stand in and which to move from and which to just be in, right? Just to feel yourself in space and to occupy fully embodied. It also is a very well-aligned mountain pose is a very good, well, it keeps the natural curves of the spine intact. And it, what was I going to say about it? Oh, it provides us with a center of gravity that's balanced. The more we do it, the more we refer to it, the more we're training this body-mind map that we have within us of where level ground is, where we are in space, how to interact with our space around us when we come and align the joints, the muscles, the bones of our body in relationship to each other and in relationship to gravity, the earth, a chair if we're doing a seated mountain pose. And each one of us is unique. So when we get into this mountain pose, it's going to provide or reveal our own physical self, emotional and energetic self, what's happening within us right then and there. And it can reveal it to yourself if you're just alone or if you're in a community of other people. It can reveal, which sometimes is a little bit vulnerable, kind of being revealed. And I never really thought about that, but when I was preparing my notes for the class, it was like, yeah, I am occupying myself in a way that is as well aligned and integrated as I can. And here I am, world. I can show that to you guys outside, or I can self-reflect and feel it inside. And most of our practice, of course, is always geared toward that internal interoception, our sensing, feeling, thinking, sensing, feeling, and experiencing world. So with that, what is mountain pose? It's considered the blueprint pose of all standing yoga postures. There's another one that's for seated postures called Tadasana, which is known as the staff pose. But in reality, Tadasana, mountain pose, can be the boilerplate or the blueprint for all seated, standing, and reclined poses, because we're always trying to kind of create these relationships of joints and muscles. When we find it, we take it with us into other poses. So the blueprint becomes something that is morphed in other poses because we'll change their shape, their rotation, for example, or their lateral bends, but we're always trying to find this blueprint within these, at least in some level, right? So I might have the lower part of my body static and be turning my upper body. So I have mountain pose, a mountain base that might be rotating near the top, for example. So mountain pose is this agreement in body, in terms of the joint position, in terms of the way that the muscles are relating with each other, the engagement, that kind of thing. And so what we're going to be working on, we're going to go through what are called platforms and how we build this mountain. And we always start from the ground. So our base, which in a standing version of mountain pose is going to be through the feet and ankles. And then that affects what's happening in the knees and affects everything that's going up the chain. But in particular, the ankles and the hips have this vulnerable joint in between the knees, right? So we want to make sure that the ankles and the hips have agreement so that the knees are doing what they need, what they're intended to do. And then similarly, when we go up to the shoulders, we're going to be affecting everything that's in the middle of the hips and the shoulders, so the rib cage and abdomen and the functioning and arrangement, correspondence of all of our organs. And then we always finish up with the head and the neck and head to make sure that we're well placed there. So with that, I mentioned to Gary Turchin, who said he was a little sleepy, that if he wanted to, he could lay on the floor and feel mountain pose as if he were standing, but laying on the floor with his feet on the wall. And you're all welcome to do that. Or you can sit in a chair, or you can stand, because I'll talk you through all of these. So you choose which kind of mountain you want to build, whether it's reclined, seated, or standing. And I'll talk about the differences in getting to those places and what you're going to be looking for and feeling. So make your way into where you're going to go. Now, I'm also going to stand. And we'll begin here as soon as I know that everybody's in position that they want to be in. By the way, I have these toe spreaders on my feet again today, so I've got bunions that I'm trying to correct. So any exercises I'm doing with my ankles, I'm wearing my toe spreaders to try to help that get back to good alignment. Okay, so first thing is the position of the feet. So I'm going to teach this class from a position that the feet are hip width distance apart. Classical Tadasana has the feet together or hip width. Most old texts show it together, but we're going to go for hip width in this class. All right, and then you want to have the feet not only hip width, but parallel. So the outer edges of the feet are pretty much parallel with each other. Now, because we all have our own expression of, in our bodies, some people might have knock knees, others might have bow legs, where that make this position of the feet at hip width uncomfortable and unstable. So you need to decide if this creates a feeling of stability to have your feet at hip width, or if there's something else that makes you stable, because the mountain has to be stable on its base. So you choose where that's going to be. I'm going to teach to hip width distance. Okay, so then the foundational support of our base here is the arches of our feet. We had a whole class on the feet a few weeks ago that I said I was going to record for posterity and to distribute. I haven't done it yet, but some of this stuff came up then. So you want to press down into the mounds of your feet, the mound of the big toe, the mound of the little toe, as well as the heel bone. Lift the 10 digits up off the floor to activate your arches while keeping those other points pressing down into the floor. So mound of the big toe, mound of the little toe, press down, heel presses down, toes lift up, spread them out as wide as you can, and then lay them onto the floor, so that you can really feel that the foot is taking up more real estate on the floor. Okay? Just give yourself a moment to feel that. Becoming aware of what's happening in your feet. Just a note, Evelyn, you can also lean against a wall if you would like to be even more supported. You can still do the standing version, but put your back, your shoulders, and your heels at the wall, and that's perfect. You can do mountain pose that way too. Okay, so if you'd like, you can do that. All right, and then we're going to balance where the weight is on the feet, from the front of the foot to the back of the foot, each of them together, the outer foot and the inner foot. So you might notice that you might roll to the outer edges of your feet. Very, very common. Very, very common. It's also very common to roll to the inner edges of the feet. See if you can balance front, back, right, left. All right. Seated people are doing the same thing. So you're feeling into your feet. Your feet should be parallel, about hip width. You've got bent knees. And that's fine too. Okay. You're also going to be balancing on your sitting bones. So you might rock a little side to side in your seat and find the feet of your seats, your sitting bones, and make sure you're balanced right to left on those. Okay. Standing people, we're going to give a little slight bend to the knees. Track those knees straight ahead, just a little bit of a bend. Try to keep the weight even, front of the foot to back of the foot. And then you're going to straighten your legs. And what straightens your legs is the quadriceps, the fronts of your thigh muscles. And so when you straighten the legs, the quads engage, and you want to keep some active engagement in the front thigh muscles. Okay? Tops of the thighs. Imagine that when we lay on our back and we do the hamstring stretch, and we try to press that thigh into our imaginary hands behind the back of the leg. Press your thighs in toward the back of them, the fronts of the thighs back. And that should bring the pelvis right over the fronts of the heels. Okay, pelvis over the fronts of the heels. Now the pelvis is a bowl, right? So pelvis means basin. And if we have a basin that tucks back, then we're going to be sliding all the contents of the bowl out the back. And we'll be kind of hanging out in the front hip joints. It'll be hard, it'll be really flat, it'll be really kind of tight here. If we do the opposite and we tilt the bowl the other way, the contents slide out the front, and this is really kind of soft and spongy in here, and it creates a big arch in the low back. The other one flattens the low back. Your job is to find somewhere that's right in between those. So give your knees a little bit of a bend again. That's just to take the hamstrings out of the equation. And then see if you can roll your pelvis a little forward, a little bit back. With your hands on your hip bones, you should be able to find or feel how your pelvis, the whole pelvis tips forward and tips back. Notice what that feels like. Keeping that stable base down through the feet, toes are spread, the weight is even front to back, inner to outer. You're rolling your pelvis forward and back. Once you think you've found your pretty neutral, then go ahead and straighten your legs. Seated people could be doing the same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's like a little pelvic tilt, finding that evenness. Okay, we do that a lot in cat-cow. So I'm going to I'm going to stay here a little bit longer. So we've got the platform of the feet and ankles, platform of the hips, knees pointing straight ahead right between these two platforms, right? Thighs are engaged, pelvis is neutral. And then we get to this point that's between the shoulders and the hips. So the rib cage is like a cylinder, and it sits on top of the bowl of your pelvis. Now, if the cylinder is pushed forward, it's going to be aiming the contents that way. Let's say this block was a cylinder, right? If it were a cylinder and it's leaning back a little bit, everything's sliding out there. It's not going into the bowl of the pelvis. So I want to soften my front ribs in toward the back ribs. I'm going to drop those front ribs down so they aim right down into the bowl of the pelvis. Okay? See what that feels like. See what you can do with that. Another cue that some teachers use is lift your back ribs up. This gets really confusing, but my back ribs are dropped down. When I lift them up, it drops the front ribs. So see how that happens? Lift the back ribs up, soften the front ribs down, does the same thing, creates this evenness. And then when you get this evenness, you don't have to use as much muscular work. Actually, that was one of the points of mountain pose I wanted to say earlier. When we create this optimal alignment, we don't have to use our muscles as much. We can let gravity work on the bones and the joints. All right, so ankles, hips. Now we're up to the shoulder girdle. So shoulder girdle is, we're going to keep the ribs soft down, but lift the breastbone up. So we're getting tall through the front without just military chest pushing that forward, but getting nice and tall. Okay, we're going to have broadness across the collarbones, widen across the collarbones, but not squeezing them back because you want to keep those shoulder blades nice and broad as well. So evenness front and back, across the top of the chest, across the top of the upper back, and we want to keep the tops of the shoulders relaxed. That's going to be an important part for when we do upward mountain, which is when we take the arms up. Tops of the shoulders stay relaxed. They stay wide through the shoulder blades, front ribs stay soft, okay? And then from there, the neck. So a lot of us hang forward with the head. You want to lift and lengthen up from the base of the skull, letting the chin drop ever so slightly down. All sides of the neck open, just like all sides of this abdomen are open, okay? And then again, rooting down into your feet. Keeping those front ribs soft, keeping the thighs engaged, getting nice and tall through the breastbone, collarbones wide, shoulder blades wide. We rotate the arms, palms forward. This is not an anatomically Tadasana. Tadasana is just letting him rest facing into the middle, but we're gonna add this, turning the shoulders out. And then we're gonna just hold and feel our mountain, okay? So just get a sense of what your mountain pose, seated or standing, feels like. Notice how your breath flows. Notice if you're able to find this dynamic pose. There's always going to be, your body's finding equilibrium, whether you're holding your eyes open or closed. Always trying to find a sense of balance between the parts. And even though we feel like, oh, I'm just standing still, there's a lot going on. What's happening? Notice the swaying that happens, seated or standing. A moving meditation, noticing all the little shifts that happen. And again, double check that your mountain pose feels stable. A lot of us hang out on one hip, for example, and this hip gets overstretched, and the weight goes down. This other leg gets a little sleepy. So make sure you're balanced right side to left side, so that they're doing the same thing. There's no such thing as a perfect pose. I'm sorry, there's just not. There's no such thing as a perfect expression of the pose, but what is yours? What is your perfectly imperfect mountain feel like? Your Tadasana. Can you find that part that feels stable and feels balanced?
I can just move. Okay.
And then from here, from your stable mountain, we're going to go into upward mountain. And the first place that we're going to do that is we're going to take those arms forward and up as high as you can. And that might be here, that's fine. Or you can bring them up higher. And you're going to try to keep the arms about shoulder width unless that causes compression around the upper back, in which case you keep those arms wider. And that's fine too. And when you took your arms overhead, did that mean that your hips went over your toes? Can you keep the weight back, the front of your heels instead? Are both legs doing the same thing? Pressing down into the floor. Let's give those knees a slight bend again. Track those knees just a little bit forward. And this is almost like a baby version of chair pose, right? Little baby chair. And then straighten those legs again. Press the tops of the thighs back. Keep your neutral lumbar. Keep this cage and bowl talking to each other. And take 2 more breaths, or bring your arms down anytime you need to, because that's your own mountain today. Your next exhale, we'll bring the hands right down the middle. Find the hands, palms together, and bring them right down to your heart. And then from the heart, going right back up, inhale. Pushing down through the feet, stretching up as high as you're comfortable going. And this time we're going to take the arms out to the side and down. I'm going to step back a little bit so my arms aren't completely cut off, but you know where I'm at here. We're going to go forward and up again. As high as you comfortably can. Feel the changes that are going to happen. Exhale, hands to your heart, right down the middle, your own center. Traveling back up to the center as you inhale. And the arms sweep out wide, out and down as you exhale. We'll do that one more time. Traveling forward and up, just to your own comfort. Find those palms, bring them together, exhaling down the middle. Nice and tall through the spine, even neck. Inhale, back up. Exhale out to the sides. And then I invite you to come take a seat in your chair. And we'll do a little bit of stuff, a little bit of work sitting. It might be a little bit more up and down today, but again, you do what you feel comfortable with. We're gonna do cat-cow next. So now knowing what you know about the relationship of that rib cage, right? Especially rib cage pelvis, you can see why if the rib cage is compromised, it's gonna be hard to breathe, right? So in other words, if my collarbones shrink in the front, this drops down onto my bowl. My diaphragm can't go anywhere. It's gonna be hard to breathe. Not just because my chest is sunk, but because I've got this happening here, I can't get optimal breath. So when we start in our seated mountain pose, it's gonna be this neutral place, and we're gonna go both directions. So first place we're gonna go is to cat. You're gonna slide your hands over, doing what I just demonstrated, but then a little bit further. And notice at the front of your body, the ribs are dropping down toward your pelvis, the head is down, and you're open on the back of your body. So that's where we're gonna aim that inhale. Inhale into your back. And then exhale, stay in this position, belly in, tighter. And then as you inhale, open the front and close the back. And then you're gonna stay here as you exhale. So my rib cage now is that kind of military floating up. Got a little more arch in my low back because I'm tilting the pelvis a little bit forward. And then when you're ready, take another inhale here. Notice what that feels like. So much freedom for breath in the front, even though we don't want to stay there. And exhale, round into your cat. Just go on your own now, inhaling back and forth. You can breathe in either position. I don't take it that you only inhale in the cow and only exhale in the cat. I like to mix it up and to experience the breath in different ways because I think it has benefit. So if you don't want to do the same pattern of breathing that I am describing, the exhale on cat, the inhale on cow, you can do the other. Just have a good reason for it. And as you're traveling back and forth between these two shapes, what's happening to your mountain? It's like a bunch of blocks that are rolling over each other. Those platforms are integrating and disintegrating over and over again. But all the while, the stable base of your mountain, the feet in particular, the knees, the position of the femurs in the hip joints, they're all stable. The pelvis is moving, the spine is moving, shoulders are moving, neck and head. Okay, and then we're gonna just take one or two more. And then you're gonna come to your seated mountain pose. And notice what that feels like, especially if you did the standing variation earlier. What is your seated mountain? What's the expression of your pose physically, energetically, emotionally? And then from there, we're all going to do a couple versions of plank pose. It might be the same version that's repeated, and that's fine. But plank pose is another staff. It's like I mentioned earlier, staff pose, Tadasana is called staff. Plank is also known as a staff pose. What we're going to keep mountain in the lower part of the body and plank in the upper part of the body, at least all together for this first one, okay? So you're going to maintain a neutral pelvis. You're not rolled back. You're not tipped too far forward. You're somewhere in the middle. You're going to keep your ribs equal alignment, dropping down. Not lifting up, not dropping down, just kind of right where they need to be, right in the middle. And this, by the way, is it's a core activator. Your transversus abdominis is the deepest abdominal layer we have, and it wraps all the way around, connecting our rib cage to the pelvis and pubic bone actually too. So it's a stabilizer. By the way, you can feel that by going shh, shh, shh. If you do that and with a hand on your body, you can feel your transversus abdominis, that deepest layer, turn on. Even with a hand on the back, you can feel it. Shh, 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 shh. You can find your transversus, okay? So we're gonna keep that nice and stable, and we're gonna lift the arms up about shoulder height right in front of us and flex your wrist by pulling the fingers back and reaching through the heels of your hands. Okay, so you're gonna imagine that you're pushing into something, either pushing into a wall or you're pushing into the floor, but we're vertical. Plank pose is a horizontal pose. It has more gravitational load through the joints, but we can recreate it here in a vertical sense. So your arms should be straight and engaged. Firm. The hands should be pulled back as much as you comfortably can. The fingers spread. Somewhere between the index finger and middle finger, point up. Thumb extends away. And make sure that your hands look as if you're pressing into a flat surface. So you're not rolling the pinky side edge of your hand forward or back, but it's neutral with the other ones. Feel into your feet, spread your toes, and press your seat down into the floor so that you can elongate through the top of your head. Are your arms getting tired yet? They should be. Take a couple more breaths. If you're working here, you're working this upright plank, and you should feel like you're doing there is some work happening. One more breath. And then relax and let go. Could you find mountain in your plank? Could you feel it? It's definitely there, some degree. So you're either going to repeat that plank, as we all felt. There's actually some work happening. It's more in the arms right now, but gravity's imposing on your head, shoulders, and hips, as well as your knees and ankles. So you're getting some benefit there as well. But you can get benefit doing a plank against the wall. And what we would do for the plank against the wall, and let me show you, because I'm going to give you two options, maybe even three. So plank against the wall, you'd stand a little bit back away, a little bit more than arm's distance, so that we lean into the wall to create load. And I'm going to try to keep my mountain pose, head, shoulders, hips, ankles in line with my arms about shoulder height, all that same work in my hands, pushing the wall away and holding here. So there's more load in this plank. The next possibility is using a chair, which I like as a transition. And your feet would walk back, and you want to make sure you're not dropping down, but you're using some core strength. You're keeping that rib basin of your pelvis intact, and the head doesn't hang. It stays aligned with the rest of the spine, and the arms are straight. Okay, so it could be there. I know there's some planks on the floor, people in this room. So this could be plank, half plank, one leg back, half plank, two legs back, full plank on the floor. Wherever you can go and feel stable and build a mountain is where you should go. All right, so choose which one you're gonna do. We're gonna look for mountain pose. Wait to start until I start to give cues, so it gives everybody a chance to get where they're gonna go. Go to a wall, go to a chair, stay in the chair, or go to the floor. All right. Anybody not doing plank? What are you gonna do, sweetie? Which one are you gonna do? Yeah. All right. So find the position of your hands first. So Gary Turchin, yeah, I wouldn't start yet. I'd walk forward so that your hands are right underneath your shoulders and your legs are under your hips. There you go. So that's like a half plank version of it using the chair. Okay, good. And spread your fingers and align those index finger, middle finger so that they're pointing virtually up. Spread your hands out. Do your best that you can. Shoulders in line with the wrists, arms straight. Okay. And then you can, if you're using the chair, walk both of your feet back, keeping the shoulders right over the wrists until you make a long line. Feel from the inside, a long line from the crown of your head through your tail. Those of you that might be on the floor, keep your shoulders over your wrists, your knees under your hips, and step 1 or 2 feet straight back with just your hands and feet on the floor. Breathe here. Keep pushing down. See if you can feel in your own body that the rib cage and the bowl of your pelvis are relating to each other. Legs are straight and firm. Heels are reaching back. Heart is pulling forward, a little lift of the breastbone there. That's it. Aim the crown of the head forward. That's it. Keep breathing. Thighs are tight. Press the thighs back. Beautiful. Now, if you're on a chair, down dog is a really nice place to go next. If you're on the floor, feel free to take a full dog or rest in child's pose. Take a few breaths in a way that feels restful to you. And in fact, other than child's pose, down dog offers opportunities to find Tadasana. Can you find Tadasana in the position of your feet, the work of the legs, the length of the spine? Good. Child's pose, a little harder to find that. Okay, and then go ahead and practice your plank pose one more time, whichever variation you're working on. Explore it a little bit. See what does one change make? Like even if you step 1 foot a little bit forward and kind of threw out your mountain that way, how does that have repercussions through the whole body? Notice what it does to the hips, or one hand out of alignment, or letting your head drop. You can feel it all the way through the low back, belly. Good. Take a few more breaths if possible. You'll eventually go back into your resting pose, taking what you've learned with you. Good. And then when you finish your plank and your rest, come back to mountain pose, either standing or sitting or reclining if you're tired. Okay, so go back and practice again. Start from the foundation, the floor, right? The 2 parallel feet, active arches, engage thighs to protect the knees, neutral pelvis, neutral rib cage to pelvis, collarbones and shoulder blades broad, let neck long, head over the shoulders, balanced front back, right left. Breathe. Good. So I took a pelvic health class a couple years ago, and I thought this one cue that one of the teachers, the primary teacher told me, let's say that we thrust our hips forward over our toes. Thrust the hips a little bit forward, where I said it's really hard up front, you dump in the back. And notice if you can breathe all the way down into the pelvic floor. In other words, relax down into the pelvic floor. Feel like its diaphragm is descending as you inhale and ascending as you exhale, because it does do that. Okay. Just notice can you breathe? Can you feel a sense of the body breathing way down the lowest part of your torso in this position? And then come back to hips over heels, that neutral alignment. And notice how it feels to breathe there. Literally bring your attention all the way to the bottom of your pelvic floor. Bottom of the pelvis. Notice with the breath, if you can feel a sense of breathing there. And there may or may not be a difference. You may not be able to perceive a difference, but anatomically, physiologically, it is unable to, the diaphragm is not going to work as well, which leads to a lot of incontinence problems, stress and urge incontinence problems, just simply because the pelvic organs are displaced and it has an effect on the ability of the diaphragms to work together. So we have diaphragms here and here. We also have one up here, and they all go inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And it can't do that if you don't have this optimum relationship. Cool, huh? Who knew? If you want to talk about that anymore, anybody has any issues like that, they want a little bit more guidance, let me know. All right, so the next place we're going to go is chair pose. So you can do a standing chair pose. I demonstrated earlier that you can have a baby chair, right? You can even have the arms forward, or you can take the arms up. You can go deeper if you want, but maintain those front ribs, maintain the neutral pelvis, or if you just want to be in the chair, there's your chair pose, okay? Either here or here, okay? But balanced on your feet. Neutral basin to ribs. Lifted sternum, wide collarbones and shoulder blades, arms parallel. Gaze is traditionally up, but I'm okay if you want to be straight ahead, because that feels best in my neck. Knees should be tracking straight ahead. Don't let the knees drop in if your feet are parallel and hip width, so keep them tracking together. How about those arches? Beautiful. On your next exhale, we'll press through the feet, stand up, release your arms down. If you're sitting, just release your arms down, stand vertical, or sit vertical. And we're going to go in again. Okay, so I'm going to show the seated variation, because some of you are doing the seated variation. Feet are back. You're leaning a little bit forward. Inhale into your chair, whether it's seated or standing. Stay there as you exhale. Connect your feet into the ground. Stand tall through the top of your head. Take another inhale. Stay as you exhale. And on your next inhale, stand up and release your arms. Good. One more chair pose. You can always switch varieties if you want to sit. It's totally fine. Okay? I'm gonna some of you, if you want to come from sit to stand, you can do that too. That'd be you guys are used to doing that one. Ready? Inhale into your chair pose. Hold for 3 breaths. Those of you that are standing, make sure you can see your toenails. Okay, so make sure your toenails are visible so that there's more weight over the front of your heels rather than your toes. When you're ready to come out, use an inhale. Push through the feet, release your arms, and take a nice comfortable stance. All right, beautiful. From here, let's take a wide-legged forward fold. Seated variety would be legs out, the knees would be facing the same direction as the toes here. Standing variation, you're going to have a chair in front of you. My imaginary chair is here, but your feet are going to be parallel. So this is going to be kind of a combination. So this is Tadasana with wide legs. Feet stay parallel, toes lined up with each other, thighs engaged. Okay? And it gets a little challenging to keep mountain pose. Watch what happens when we come into mountain. Well, I'm going to probably take us to hands on the chair position so you can see. Like mountain is coming with me in my torso, but I have this hinge at the hips, right? The lower you go, the more we tend to get round. But we might be able to find a little mountain there, even though we come down. Maybe. Okay, so we'll start with the hands at your hips, the feet parallel. Your chair seat is in front of you. And we lift the chest up. And then hinge at the hips, bringing your mountain torso with you. Bring your mountain torso. Keep it long in the front. Eventually, your hands come down to the chair. Now, it may not be possible to keep your legs straight, so a bend in the knee is fine. That's totally acceptable. As long as those knees point straight ahead,
Ayubo.
all right? Feel that length through the front of your chest, the natural curves of your spine intact. That's right, you guys. And then if you want, you can go down even further. You might come to your elbows. You might move the chair and bring your hands down to the floor. Like, just find your mountain pose that you want to work today. I'm gonna flip around and use the chair. Okay, so now notice where the weight is on your feet. For most of us, the hips go behind the heels. Try not to do that. Try to tip the weight a little bit forward so you have some weight on your toes too. As you let the head come down, if that feels okay for you, and let the head come down, widen your collarbones, lengthen your chest, and soften the tops of your shoulders. See if you can explore your own mountain here. Notice where the parts disconnect, where they disintegrate, where they're integrated. Don't beat yourself up. It's a point of focus and meditation, and it's an exploration in what's possible for you to find today. Okay, we're gonna take one more breath here. And then you're gonna come back to a straight arm position with the hands on the chair. Okay, and then walk your feet in toward each other so that they're underneath your hips, so that you bring them to hip width. So this would be this is like the half plank position that we used earlier on the chair. Okay? And then from this half plank position, walk your left foot right into the middle, right into the middle. Okay, so now your left foot came into the midline. Make sure it's still parallel. You have two hands on the chair. Okay, lengthen your chest forward. Anchor down through your left foot and take your right foot just behind you a little bit. Keep the toes on the floor. Keep the toes on the floor. Pause for a moment. Keep those arms nice and straight like plank arms, chest forward. Tadasana in your left leg. See if you can take your right leg up a little bit higher. Starting to lift back behind you a little bit. Breathe. You might keep your toes on the floor. That's fine. Keep going. If you can, take that leg up a little bit higher. Little bit higher. One more breath. And lower the right foot all the way down. Big toes touch with your left foot. Okay, so we're narrow. Pause here. Make sure you're stable on your hands. Still got plank arms. Chest forward. Tadasana in your right leg. Use your right big toe. Don't lose that ground. Okay? Keep Tadasana in your right leg. Slide your left foot back a couple of inches. Keep your toes on the floor. This might be it. This might be as far as you go. It's fine. Stay with it. Build your mountain, chest forward. Balance your foot, your right foot. Your right leg is working. Maybe take your left leg up behind you a couple more inches. Maybe. Keep your mountain, explore what's possible. Keep yourself balanced on your standing foot, your two arms, which are acting like legs. Maybe go a little higher. Try to keep your mountain in your chest. Another little bit higher. Maybe take it up a little higher. Well done, everybody. Lower that left leg all the way down next to the right. Separate the feet hip width. And then we're going to go ahead and take a seat in the chair. So carefully turn around and put your butt on that chair. And shake out your wrists. That's hard work for your hands. Shake it out. All right. So let's rest in a chair child's pose. So in chair child's pose, you can have your feet together or apart. You can go down between your legs or lay your chest on your legs or just your elbows on your legs. Let yourself rest here, okay? So just to give yourself a few easy breaths just to recover. Even though mountain pose is this blueprint, there's a lot to attend to. But I kind of think of it, this is silly to say, but I kind of think of it like Mexican food. It's got all these yoga poses have the same ingredients. They're all made of the same stuff in different shapes. So if you get sour cream where the sour cream needs to go, or the beans, the rice, you get, I hope you like Mexican food. I think there was somebody that didn't like Mexican food. I don't remember. All right, so we're gonna come on up. We're gonna stay seated, but we're gonna do seated twist. So go ahead and walk yourself around so that the right side of your body faces the back of your chair. Okay, mountain pose in the legs, hips. If you're tall and you typically sit up on something, now's a good time to add that. I'm gonna get my blanket. Feet parallel. Head over shoulders, shoulders over hips. Align your neck. Thighs stay stable. We're gonna go for the upward mountain to get in. So take your arms forward and up. Keep vertical. Use stable foundation through the hips and the legs. Turn your rib cage toward the back of the chair. And then once you find where you can turn with just your muscles of your torso, then release your hands down to the chair and hold on. Right, so we've got the stable foundation in the lower half of the body, the upper half of the body's turning toward the back of the chair. Notice if you're leaning back or leaning forward, or if you're leaning to the side, either side. We tend to lean toward the direction we're twisting. Try to lean back so that your shoulders are right over your hips and your rib cage is turning right over the bowl of your pelvis. Okay, hold there and breathe. And try to balance the amount of work that's happening on the right side and the left side, so we're not overworking. Notice if the tops of your shoulders are soft or if they're up by your ears, all hard and tense. Notice if there's the ability for your belly to expand as your diaphragm moves down, or is your rib cage sitting right on top of the pelvis? Try to keep that space, length. Okay, and then, so we have a revolved mountain in the seated twist, and then we're going to twist counter twist just the head back in line with the base of the mountain. David, are you with us? You doing seated twist? All right, everybody, give it one more breath. And gently unwind back to your mountain, integrated top and bottom. I think the mailman's here. The dog's barking. Okay, and then walk around to your second side. The left side of your body faces the back of your chair. Your lower half is in mountain. Feet are parallel. Seat is firm and even. And rooting down into the feet. Float the arms up. Remember to keep those front ribs soft, back ribs lifted a little bit. Turn to the back of the chair using your core muscles, revolve around, and then simply let your hands find the chair. Then it's your job after that to notice, are you leaning to one side? Are you leaning forward or back? Try to keep the rib cage right over the pelvis, shoulders turning over the hips, without side bending, without back bending or forward bending, just keeping that neutral rotation. Rib cage, shoulders, and head and neck. Tops of the shoulders relax down so the collarbones are wide, shoulder blades are wide. You're breathing and you're able to breathe. And each one of these expressions of our mountain pose, right? Even a revolved mountain has your own unique expression. Reflects physical makeup, your emotional makeup. What you've been doing earlier today, of course, too. Okay, counter twist your head in the direction of the base of the mountain. Turning your head back towards your knees. Good. And then gently unwind all the way out. Ah, good. Okay. So we're going to do one more standing pose. I'd like to show it to you first before we move into it because it gets a little tricky. It's also a twist. We've done, and in this class and in Vicky's class, the twisting triangle, but this is going to be a wide-based twisting triangle. So we're going to put a lot of elements that you've already done together. So I'm going to show it from two different views. First view is here. Wide leg, parallel mountain. Let me fix my mat. We'll hinge forward, hands down to the chair. Instead of bringing a leg into the middle, I'm going to bring a hand into the middle. Okay. You want to make sure you've got that stable foundation, the length here, and then we're going to turn the top of the mountain away. Now, this shoulder doesn't always like to do this. It feels awkward in some places, especially it's heavy, you're holding it up in space. The whole twist is like, to go all the way back. It's hard to do. I'm going to suggest that you think about what the arm does. It's an extension of your collarbone. So we want the collarbone to turn, to find that rotation. And whether you take the arm up or not, it's going to be your choice. Okay, it's up to you if you want to. So this is what it looks like from the front, lots of length. And let me show you from the side. So side view, same thing, set up wide, hand in the middle, legs strong, balance front, back, chest forward, ribs in, turn. My hips are gonna wanna go over, which in this pose, in this shape, looks like, my hips really wanna go over. That's not mountain there. Okay, and there's different ways of doing this pose. For today, we're just gonna concentrate on keeping mountain here and twist the mountain up top. Okay, so this is our plank arm, our Tadasana wide base, our rotation that we just did in the twist, putting it all together. Okay, so twisting triangle. If you don't want to come down come to a standing position, your twisting triangle could be here. So you could stay in a stable base here and turn your chest just like you did and maybe extend an arm. Okay, so it would be a version of the seated twist you just did. Okay, but for those that want to move into twisted triangle, stand with your seat facing you, wide stance, feet parallel. Legs active. Hinge at the hips, keeping your Tadasana spine, hands down onto your chair, like plank. Okay? Going forward, spine long through the top of your head, hips back, maybe bent knees, maybe. Now anchor the big toe joints. Make sure that those stay grounded. You're not rolling to the outer edges of your feet. You've got the big toes, little toes pressing down, weight distributed from the front of the foot to the back of the foot. And then we're going to start by placing your left hand into the middle of the chair. Right under your nose, pretty much. Spread your fingers, just like a plank hand, and push down into the chair to straighten your arm and to lift your chest. Okay, bring your right hand to your hip and start to turn your collarbone up. Turn that collarbone up. If you want to look up, go for it. You don't have to. But see if you can feel that your mountain pose is maintained in your lower body. Your upper body is revolving around. You want to take your arm up, go for it, you can. If you don't have to, if you want to take your gaze up, you go for it, you can. Breathe. 2 more breaths in this twisted triangle. Bottom arm nice and straight. Good job, everybody. Let your head come out first. Unwind your head, unwind your shoulders and collarbones. Bring your hands down. Even out on those 2 sides for a moment. Give yourself a breath. And then we'll bring your right hand into the middle. Left hand to your hip. Do it all over again. Straighten your legs if you can, right? Tip the weight toward the front of the feet a little bit. Chest forward. Push down into your right hand to lift your chest up. And then start to turn your left collarbone back. Left shoulder back. Nice long length. Beautiful. Look up or look down is up to you. Whether you take your arm up or down is up to you. Keep breathing. Couple more breaths. That bottom arm is strong. It should be working like plank, right? It's holding and supporting you just like your legs are. Nicely done. 1 more breath. Your head comes out first. Look down. Look where you want to go. Unwind. Bring that top arm down. And rest. All right. If you would like to kind of break the mold and do a couple up dogs, down dogs, that might feel really nice after those twists and after all the alignment that we've done. If you want to do some of that, go for it. If you prefer not, then start to make your way down onto the floor. You can put your legs over a chair. We'll do a little bit before we get in just to settle the body. So if you want to do some up dogs, down dogs with your chair, go for it. Stretch out and just enjoy taking all of that good alignment into some back bending and forward bending. Notice as, you know, when you're passing through, just like we did with cat-cow, how the principles of Tadasana still maintain and still work, even though you're coming into back bending and forward bending. Good. And then when you're ready, we'll all meet down on the floor with legs on the chair. So gradually make your way in that direction. Well done, you guys. Everybody's done such a great job. I'm going to go ahead and mute while I'm up. Always unmute later. Go ahead and lay down, support your legs. If you need a blanket for your head, have that. Support all the way to the backs of your knees. Make any adjustments you need to be comfortable, to be well distributed. Right, so this is like, when you have the legs up like this, it's like a half Shavasana. Like I said, it's a Tadasana platform. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do a little bit of upper body work here to support our upper torso in a reclined resting position. So with your head supported, if on a blanket, that's fine, or not. You're gonna bring your elbows out from your shoulders. You have to move. Bring your elbows out from your shoulders and bring your forearms vertical to the floor. So your Lower arms are facing up. They're vertical. Your upper arms are horizontal and they're straight out from your shoulders like a T. Okay, then make little fists with your hands. Give yourself a little grip there. And relax your lower body. So there's no effort that needs to happen in the abdomen, in your legs. Just let your legs relax. And we're going to press the elbows down into the floor and squeeze the shoulder blades a little bit together. And then release. And that's it. That's your movement. Squeeze and release. And notice what it does to your Tadasana. Your Tadasana torso, right? It's a little bit of a back bend in your upper back. And then drops it back down when you let go. Okay. So another important cue is when you're squeezing the shoulder blades together, it's kind of the access point is the elbows, but you don't have to work the elbows so strongly. You're really just trying to get to your shoulder blades. So squeeze the shoulder blades together and then see if you can give them a little nudge down as if you're trying to put them in your back pockets. So shoulder blades together and down and release, and your abdomen stays soft, your legs supported. Let's give it like 10 more of these. Make sure you're breathing. Once you're done with your 10, you just relax your arms, let them be by your sides. And letting your upper body relax. Line up your legs so that they're hip width. So they might be kind of splayed out a little bit wider, and you might have your knees together. Bring your legs to hip width. Keep your lower legs on the chair. And then you're going to slide your right knee off and put your right ankle on your left knee for the figure 4 stretch. You don't have to use your arms on this one. Figure 4 stretch, right ankle on left knee. And you're just gonna hold it there. Well, if you want to go deeper, you can bring your left knee in toward your chest. Gary, you've been walking all day, that might feel good to bring your left leg in and hold on the back of the thigh to increase the stretch, but you don't have to, you don't want to. It's a nice hip stretch. A few more breaths there. You can actually almost imagine with this figure 4, if your torso is neutral, which it is because it's laying on the floor, that this is like a reclined tree pose almost. It's almost like a reclined tree pose with chair pose legs, chair pose standing leg. I told you Mexican food, you just put it together differently. Okay, place your right leg back on the chair. Keep it about hip width. And bring your left ankle on your right knee for the hip stretch. You get to choose how much you want to do. If you want to bring that right leg in, go for it. If you want to just let it rest on the chair, perfect. Breathe. Last breath or two here. And then release your left leg and bring both of your knees into your chest and give them a hug in. Just hold them and rock a little side to side if you would like. Let it be easy. And when you feel that's been enough, just slide your legs over the chair, preparing for rest. Again, support to the backs of your knees. Make sure your upper body is completely supported and comfortable. Rest your arms either by your sides, palms up, or you can place your hands on your abdomen. And let the front of your body lean into the back of your body. Heavy, letting go. Let the back of your body lean into the floor, the chair. And notice that thin line that you occupy, your spirit, your awareness occupies right in the middle, and rest there. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. It's pure being. Bring your attention back to your breath. Give yourself a long, slow, smooth breath in. Long, slow, smooth breath out. A long, slow, smooth breath in. A long, slow, smooth breath out. And another if you like. Begin to wake up your hands and feet, wrists, and ankles, fingers and toes wiggling, rotation through the ankle and wrists. And when you feel ready, you can roll over to your side and gently press yourself up. Feel free to stay in Shavasana if you're feeling really good. You just want to keep going. And whatever seat you take, whether you're on a chair, on the floor, occupy yourself in a dignified, upright mountain. And see if you can feel that sense of being balanced from the inside to the outside, front to back, and right to left. Bring your hands to your heart. Yeah, we need to do our mudra, our chant. So bring your hands into Hakini mudra. And we can chant together, offering this practice to the happiness and well-being of all. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you all for being here today. I hope that was worthwhile for you. I hope you might have learned a couple of things that you can take with you. If you have any questions or comments, I'm always available. Yeah, do you have a question,
Yes.
Evelyn?
Where,
Yeah.
Where can I find this recording that you've made, or that you will?
Oh, I will send you a link to it. I'll send you a link to it. Do me a favor though, when I send you I'll just send it to everybody. When I send you the link, go and download it onto your computer because it's gonna suck out my cloud. Or actually, I could put it on YouTube. I'll make it a YouTube. Would that be easier? So you can always have it?
Yeah, I'd love
I can do that. I think I can. Okay, I'll download it. I'll put it on YouTube and I'll send you guys a link to that. It'll be private just for you guys.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I'm glad. Thank you. That's a high compliment. You must have liked it.
Yeah, yeah. What about the one that you did before?
The one about feet, I haven't made the recording yet. I wish I just taped class that day, darn it, because it was a good class. But I said I would record it, and I just still haven't gotten to it yet. Maybe this weekend. I don't know. Soon. When I have some free time. All right. But I will do it, I promise.
Thank you.
All right. You're so welcome. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Have a nice
All right.
Have a good week.
All right. You too. Thanks. Ciao, ciao.